Okay.
I will have to consult my notes. So if you see me looking down, I'm just taking my
Okay.
notes. I'm sorry. Yes, Toastmasters.
Sergeant
Today,
at Arms, everyone, welcome. Welcome to Talents Unlimited Toastmasters. We meet here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Our venue consists of a podcast environment where we discuss many topics based on the pathways that Toastmasters offers, such as leadership, communication, team building, you name it, Toastmasters has it at one of the most affordable prices of any education that you could possibly get anywhere. And you can use it day one to build your professional and personal skills. So before we begin, we have a kind reminder, and we're going to pick our Sergeant of Arms here to remind us of what a Toastmasters, the etiquette here at Toastmasters consists of. Sergeant at Arms, Mr. Jim Kearney.
Me? What? Okay.
Yeah.
If you happen to have a cell phone, kind of like this one, please take it out, put it into the off or silent position so as not to disturb any of the speakers that are going to be at the lectern. And when the speaker asks questions, I hope everyone is unmuted and we can partake in this podcast. Without further ado, let me turn it back over to our presiding officer, Mr. Robert Ortiz.
Thank you, Jim, and welcome again to Talents Unlimited Toastmasters. Tonight, we are concluding the Toastmasters Promise series. In the past, we talked about what Toastmasters members, what they promised to do as Toastmaster members, such as one of the promises was to attend meetings. Secondly, was provide quality evaluations. But tonight, what is Toastmasters based on? And we have a special treat tonight from our speaker of this evening. Her name is Nadita Das. Nadita, tell us about what you're going to speak about tonight and what Toastmasters is all about.
yes, Mr. Presiding Officer or Mr. Toastmaster. I will be talking about, or at least giving a speech on creating a positive and supporting Toastmasters environment, which is one of our most important elements in our promise, I feel, for every Toastmasters club, because we have to support each other and make people feel welcome. And also share our knowledge. So without further ado, I would like to delve into the heart of what Toastmasters what makes Toastmasters. And that is this focusing on this topic, which is crucial for every Toastmasters club. Maintaining a positive, friendly environment that fosters growth and learning for all members. Sorry, I cannot, it's not up here. So let's explore this. To support each other, let's explore and support each other, enhance the recruitment process, and create an atmosphere where everyone feels welcome and valued. You have to feel valued. Let's go into it. Let's start with membership, which is actually the backbone of our clubs. Our vibrant and thriving club is powered by its members. Now, Toastmasters International, every time we go for training, provides us with valuable training, which shows us how to invite and retain members. Every time we go to the trainings that are provided with the ultimate goal of perhaps becoming President's Distinguished, which every club strives towards. So here I'd like to quote Albert Einstein. He famously said, "You never fail until you stop trying." This resilience is key not only to our personal journeys, but in also nurturing our club's environment. Secondly, speaking of nurturing, let me also quote from Dr. Ralph Smedley, who is the founder of Toastmasters International. So he said, he encouraged us actually to share the benefits that we have gained for ourselves with others. So this idea of sharing is so important. We can convince others to join us by sharing our knowledge. And I really like to say this all the time. Through how? Through defining, repeating, recording, listing, and recalling the benefits of Toastmasters when we talk to our friends, our families, even our coworkers. We can highlight how Toastmasters has helped refine our speech and enhance our relationships. I think most of us have experienced that, and we can use that. Now, another point that I would like to present here is our presentation and presence. This can reflect our dedication to Toastmasters. Now, that's why I was trying to put this thing up like this, because my camera is not really, showing half of my body. So this pin, it's not just flaunting a logo. This is a feeling. When we wear our pins and we have our logos, it's like a feeling. It's about embodying the values and ideals of our organization. So this pin represents a commitment to personal and communal growth. When prospective members, they come and they see us wearing these pins, everyone's flaunting, showing these pins, they think, oh, these people are really earnest and dedicated. And I feel that is conveyed through these logos and also these pins that we wear. And we wear them proudly. Another thing which I would like to mention here is inclusivity, since we are talking about a positive environment. In our diverse community, so many people speak so many different languages, and some of them may not be proficient in English, and I'm very concerned about that most of the time. We need to be empathetic and supportive. Now, I've personally encountered a number of guests who felt embarrassed about their language skills, but they wanted to improve. They wanted to speak well, be public speakers in English. In such cases, I feel finding bilingual mentors and designing programs that are comprehensive in mentoring people can make a huge difference. I know it's a little difficult, but that can be done by translating promotional materials into various languages if possible, and ensuring that new members receive guidance in their native language. We can make our clubs more inclusive, and this approach not only helps new members to be welcomed, but it also encourages them to be active participants. Actually, I do teach Russians and Spanish-speaking people and Armenian-speaking people, and I've noticed how they like to translate into their translators when I'm speaking to them. and they instantly start using English words in their speech. Could help if we had a good bilingual mentoring program, if we can. Now, another particular program that I like is the Speechcraft workshop. That is a fantastic tool for both new as well as existing members. And international Toastmasters International, we always see Speechcraft workshop. Just like an artist chisels away to reveal a masterpiece, Speechcraft, if it's really well delivered, can help refine our speaking skills. These workshops, and we all know that, typically run for 4 to 5 sessions or even more. And they allow members to experiment their speeches on various topics. And the best thing is they receive constructive feedback. Now, we must remember, if they are newer members, then we explain to them that these evaluations are meant to be, are not criticism, but they are meant to be constructive, and it is all about helping each other. All these little things, uh, if people remember and we use them, they do help to foster a positive environment. Let us take the general rule, which is to focus on making our guests feel comfortable. At events like open house at the door and socializing after meetings, and many clubs do that, and we do that too. Because it can welcome them and make them also discussing Toastmasters magazines, brochures, discussing with them. Okay, that can also help guests understand the benefits of joining a Toastmasters club. We should remember that hospitality is an important key. There was a Greek writer called Homer, everyone knows him. He wisely said, "No one forgets a kind and welcoming host." And that was ancient history, but it's still there. So in summary, let me say that creating and maintaining a positive, friendly environment in our Toastmasters Club and Toastmasters pin, and of course the logos that you have in the back, and wearing them with pride to providing language support and fostering a welcoming atmosphere. Every action that we take contributes to a supportive and enriching experience for all members. So every action is important. Thank you for listening to me, Toastmasters. Now, Mr. Toastmaster.
You're muted, Robert.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Nandita, for that educational moment about the positivity of Toastmasters and why it's so important. I'd like to give a little bit of a story, and I believe with the exception of Jim, he's always the exception, but and it has to do with anxiety. Jim can recall in my case when we were working together when my first Toastmasters meeting, when I gave my first icebreaker, and there was I would have to say there was a lot of anxiety. I was experiencing a lot of anxiety. I was scared. I was scared to death, to be honest with you. And one thing that positivity in our particular case, in our Toastmasters Club, was that the environment was super friendly. They asked me to relax And there are no mistakes that you can actually make here, especially during your first icebreaker. And you hit the nail on the head, Nandita, when you suggested that it isn't a criticism; it's constructive feedback. And I would like to hear from somebody else. Carolyn, you deal with the public all the time with respect to services and goods. Have you ever felt anxiety, and how did that positive Toastmaster environment help you? You're on
Muted.
mute, Carolyn.
You asked me if I ever felt any anxiety in selling.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I apologize. I didn't listen to the whole speech because the day is my
Oh my
birthday,
goodness.
and I'm still receiving birthday calls.
Well, happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, most of the time, I do not feel a lot of anxiety in a positive environment. You know, occasionally, anytime you're doing something or meeting people that you do not know, you may feel a little anxiety because you don't know what their response is going to be. So you may feel some anxiety towards that, especially like we call it warm chatter when you go out and you meet people in line at grocery stores and different places and tell them about your business. So what I've learned to do is when they whatever response they give you, especially if it's a no response, that the response is really not about you. It's about them. Because they may not want your product at that time. It's just like we always say it's like offering people a piece of gum or a mint. Today they may need the mint or want it. Tomorrow they may not. So that's how I take that's what I do when I do sales and different products because right now I'm trying to sell 3 different types of products other than 2 different types other than Mary Kay. So I do try to look at it positively, and you have to get a no sometime to get to yes. So I don't let it color as I say, color my whole day. I don't let it bring me down. You just my director used to say, go on to the next person next. So just keep smiling and keep going.
And you do smile a lot, by the way, Carolyn.
I do because I understand it takes more muscles to frown than it do to
Yeah.
smile. So that's why I smile.
You know,
And then I get a lot of compliments on my teeth and my smile. So
I'm sure you
I
do.
smile.
I'm sure you do. And you know, people actually pay for facelifts all the time, right? But if they just use those cheek muscles, right? You get a facelift right off the bat, right
Right.
there, right? So that'll
And the reason I smile because to me, happiness and joy is internal. It's something you decide to do. It's nobody on the outside can make you happy. You can buy stuff. It can make you happy, but you have to decide that you want to be happy. So I have decided that I want to be happy even when I face dark days, as you may say, or adversity. You know, I try to find a silver lining and just decide that, this too, this too shall pass. And there's always a rainbow after the rain.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, I don't know for our guests out there watching this video, we are privileged to have a mentor of mentors, and his to quote him, "You're never alone." And I would have to say, because he is such a great mentor for all of us, even if we don't need a mentor, he does set the example, and that's Mr. Jim Kearney. He knows what I'm talking about, so don't be shy, Jim. But I was wondering, Jim, as somebody who has mentored a great deal of members, current and past, can you give us an example on the positive aspect of club meetings and how you watch them change
If you
from
go,
that beginning, from their first introduction to Toastmasters.
if you go into a club meeting and what you see is a bunch of people, they're just sitting around, blah, 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 and not doing anything with you and not involving you and not explaining anything, you're probably not going to go back to that meeting again. Well, interaction is important. And Nandita hit on this, and she talked about mentors and all this kind of stuff and all the different things that are going on. But every single person, when they want to be involved, they always want to be something bigger than themselves because it gives them a purpose to be there. And if you don't supply that purpose, then they're not going to come back and visit. Toastmasters to me is just like any other business. Right? Carolyn mentioned about her businesses and how she smiles and does all these different things. To me, Toastmasters is exactly the same thing. Right? You have a president of the club, you have a CEO of a business, right? Then both of them tell you how the club is going to move forward or how the business is going to move forward. Then you have VPs that do different pieces in order to make that vision come true. And you have other people who go out and do the recruiting just like you would in HR. So all the different pieces of a business are incorporated inside Toastmasters, and everything you learn in Toastmasters, you can use outside of Toastmasters. When people understand that, and they understand how it works in their outside lives, then Toastmaster takes on a whole new meaning. And if a mentor turns around and brings that to light and shows them how these things happen, then that mentor will have a friend for the rest of their life. And that's what I aim to do. I aim to have a lot of friends before I kick the bucket.
I hope it's a huge bucket so you don't get to kick it. So anyway, for our audience who may be watching this video, I would just like to emphasize here that what you're hearing this evening, we had our presentation with Nandita, and what you're hearing this evening is impromptu. It is not rehearsed. So the speaking that you are hearing this evening is based on our own experiences in Toastmasters. So you are seeing that positivity that we have experienced here in Toastmasters. So something to keep in mind. This is a positive environment, and this is waiting for you. So, and Nandita,
Yes.
yes, participation. How is my question to you is how does a positive environment, because you did touch on it about participation, how does it encourage that participation? What are some of
Elements
the benefits?
of what is
Yeah.
participation. I feel that when you're part of a club and you earnestly, pick up all the uh, functions that you have been given to do, and you're there, your presence is there. And if you need to you're given to substitute for somebody, willingly do it. Show that you are earnest about being in that club and just participate everything that you're supposed to do. And so other people, when guests come in, they say, oh, these people are earnest. They are at their job and they are willing to substitute for others who, for some reason, are absent. I would think that's part of participation. And if your speeches give them some content to discuss and they get something out of your speeches, out of your delivery, whichever aspect. They might like to be part of that club or like to hear you again, and so come back.
Carolyn, I like to get your perspective on this. Would you would you say that once you achieve, because of the positivity of that positive Toastmasters experience, and you get a little bit more comfortable, do you think that a person may take more risk when speaking about just speaking up?
I think so. I think they could take more risk in speaking. Like, you know, I take a lot of risks when I'm speaking because I can give some impromptu speeches, or I can go back and give a speech. Like, yes, recently I went back and gave the speech for my very first speech contest. I've given that speech in 2 clubs. So you can take more risk in writing down your speech, or like in some clubs, if they do not have a speaker and they need a speaker, you can be prepared at any time to give a speech. Because one of the Toastmasters that has passed away, Twyla, used to say you can look around your room and find an object that you can talk about. And you can talk about different things, especially if you have knowledge. Like I'm looking at a piano that we have in the corner of my room. So I have a little knowledge about piano. I have some knowledge about my granddaughter playing the piano, and I took piano lessons for a little while also. So I could possibly give a speech about a piano, about the keys, why they're black and white, how they resemble a zebra. A lot of things. You can make it a engaging speech. You could also make it a humorous speech because you could compare the piano to other things. So I think you can take a little bit more risk in Toastmasters. I think the more speeches that you give, I think you feel more comfortable. And especially when you're in a club where you are comfortable with the audience and know that you'll get good positive feedback and the audience is always engaging and friendly, then I think you are willing to take more risks.
I want to expand on that a little bit. I want to get Jim's input on taking a risk. One of the goals of Toastmaster is public speaking. And we're not always talking about getting in front of a large audience. One of the takeaways that I see, well, not takeaways, one of the challenges that I see is just every day, and I believe this falls under the risk category of people just saying good morning to a person that you may not know well. Jim, do you ever feel that if you have that Toastmasters experience, you'll take a risk to where you can actually communicate outside of just inside the Toastmasters environment?
Participation, it keeps me growing. Look, whatever you do in Toastmasters, you can do outside of Toastmasters, whether you want to take a risk or not. It's easy if you understand a little bit about physics. So physics says that a thing at rest tends to stay at rest, and a thing in motion tends to stay at motion. So if people are going to be in motion, if people are going to sit there and they're going to participate, they're going to take on roles, they're going to speak as often as they can, they're going to get everything they can possibly get out of it because they paid money to get in there and do it, then when they go out of Toastmasters, it will automatically come to them. So yes, I think speaking to strangers and saying hello and how are you doing, I do it all the time. I highly encourage everyone to go out there and do it. It doesn't matter whether they respond or not. It makes no difference. Be happy, participate in the world, and go out there and say hello and spread the happiness and spread the good cheer.
Absolutely, absolutely. That communication is so important, as Carol has mentioned several times in past podcasts, and yourself, about also listening, how important that is. But being able to communicate your thoughts, I believe, is important, and you achieve all of these type of benefits from that positive environment that Toastmasters provides. So I want to thank Nandita for this evening, and that great the great uh, presentation she gave about the Toastmasters promise of maintaining a positive environment in the Toastmasters club meeting and the Toastmasters community. And all of our participants this evening, we are a venue. This is a podcast venue. And I just want to re-emphasize that the participation our audience has been able to observe is because it's not rehearsed. This is impromptu. This is discussion. This is Toastmasters. And I want to thank everybody for participating and giving their thoughts, because the thoughts that they are providing are from their heart. And when you have that speech outside of Toastmasters, because everything is a speech outside of Toastmasters, even if you're talking about the weather, you'll be ready. And Toastmasters is here to help you get there. So I want to thank you for watching this video. Thank everyone here this evening. And I'd like to bid everyone a good night, and speak loud. Don't be spoken for. Good night.